Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the Hulu original movie Prey. So it is on Hulu. It just came out this week as of this recording. So if you haven't gone and see it, we are going to be going into spoiler territory. So make sure you go and check it out on Hulu, and then come back and see what we have to say about the movie. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. We were talking on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/C3Films, earlier that we both did not have high expectations for this film. We both saw the trailer and we're kind of like, okay, like I know I might have been like a little more excited for it just because I like the Predator, but I like the Predator franchise, but the Predator movies have a history kind of like the Terminator movies and kind of like all of these kind of belated sequels from old 80s properties, like even like Aliens, all of that stuff. Like the recent films in these franchises are usually not very good. They're usually pretty poor. And I felt like even if I enjoyed the Predator movie, this if I enjoyed this movie Prey, I probably would not. It probably would not be because it was a great movie. It probably would just because I like this franchise. But I haven't even seen. I think there have been like two other Predator movies that have come out. Maybe only one out of the ones that I haven't seen. There's one that came out with Olivia Munn a couple of years ago. I think like 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't see that one, and I heard that that one was bad. So naturally, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was expecting that I would like it, but not that it would be good. And I am happy to say that I was so wrong. And this movie, oh my goodness, like I'm not really even sure where to begin, because I think I could just go on for like another like 20 minutes just by myself talking about all the stuff that I like. So let me just ask you real quickly, what's your own experience going into this?
I mean, I can go if you really want that, but no. I unlike you, I did not watch the trailer. I just assumed that it would be bad because, like you mentioned, it's another chain on the franchise of all these old movies and stuff. But I was also thinking like, well, it's Predator, and the old Predator movies were a little hokey. But I think it's a byproduct of being an '80s movie. Um,
Hmm.
but I also was reminded of our dear friend Prometheus. And if you want to watch that, we'll throw the link up here. But we did not like that one, and so I kind of had a feeling that it was gonna be a lot like that. But it didn't take very long just starting the movie, and watching that very first scene for me to be like, I have a good feeling about this. Yeah, and because it looked good, and it just went off on a really good start. So, um, and I think like just even seeing the cast in that first part, I was like they did a really good job picking the cast. And it didn't take me long to realize that not only did they cast correctly, because we had Native Americans playing Native Americans in this movie, like Native American actors, and I was like, yes, we are
Hmm.
actually casting people who are these people, instead of I don't want to get political, but you know what I mean. Um,
Hmm.
and they also gave the main character role to a female in an action movie. And I mean, like, I don't know if you could call this an action movie, but I mean, there is a lot of combat in this, and they gave her a lot of room to grow, which I also appreciated because I kept thinking, oh, they're gonna give her this moment where she does something really cool at the beginning and stuff like that. But at first, I was wondering why they were kind of building up to these moments where they would make you think she was gonna do something really awesome, but then she doesn't really. And
Hmm.
I actually really like that because they gave her so much room to grow, but they also really showcase what her strengths were and how she used those strengths to become a strong person, because she already had all of that inside of her. We just didn't really get an opportunity to see it. And I think, the way they showed it in the story as well is that she herself didn't really get the opportunity to show what she could do either.
Right. And the thing that the movie does well is that it's not just about them casting a female in the lead role. It's a role that really her gender does not ultimately matter to the story. Like there's little moments that you could say it might, but this character could have been male and been the exact same things could have happened. And they're not afraid to put her into harrowing situations. And like you said, they set her up in these positions where she fails, and because she fails, she grows, she learns, she gets better, and therefore you're more invested in her victory in the end because you know how much she's lost to get here to this point. It's a really The other thing they really do well is they establish a really solid relationship with her brother, where her brother's not a jerk, and it's not like she's just 100% better than her brother or he's just 100% better than her. Like they support each other and they help each other. And even in the moment, like when she fails at killing the lion, he comes back and he's willing automatically to say, hey, look what we did. He automatically wants to give her credit. He doesn't want to take the credit publicly. But because they get into a fight, he says, well, you know what, I did it, you didn't, because you got knocked out, which she did. She fell out and he had to finish it, but he admits later, well, you weakened it and that's why I was able to kill it. So once again, they did it together. So I really liked that element as far as just from a story perspective, because when you take characters and you put them in positions where they can lose or they can fail, it makes you want to see them succeed. And this character is also someone that's not like, she's not super strong. It's not like she's physically overpowering. She gets overpowered a lot in the movie, actually. But she uses her size to her advantage. She uses her wits in order to win. And I remember when I first saw the trailer for this movie, one of the things that was being said was how are these people that don't have the technology that Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff had, how are they going to beat the Predator when Arnold Schwarzenegger and a team of mercenary or a team of military men couldn't even beat the Predator without all of them dying? But that's what makes it interesting, because the deck is stacked against them. They don't have the technology to be on the same par, anywhere near the same par as the Predator. And so the interest is in how they're going to solve this problem. And the only way to really solve the problem is going to be by using their wits, which is the same way that Arnold Schwarzenegger had to win in the original movie for Predator. He had to use his wits. They had to pay attention. So this movie does a very good job of having characters, at least the two main characters, the brother and the sister, Naru and I think his name was Tiba, um, having them be characters that we can root for because of the fact that we get to see their challenges and their struggles not only together but like it's in relation to Naru, her by herself as well.
Yeah, and I really do like the relationship that they built between the brother and sister. And kind of going back to what you said, where later he, and I'm not sure if he says that she weakened it, but it was her idea and it was her plan that he listened to, and it worked. And that's like what he was essentially telling her, this is what your strength is. And it really shows too, because we got to also see how good the brother is at combat, because he was really taking a lot of blows on the Predator. And that was a really fun scene to watch. But, it would have been cool to be able to see him live and for them to do it together. But he kind of had to die there because, and actually have all those moments in the combat, because she was learning from everything that he was doing to see, like, she made all these observations of how Predator fights and what his weaknesses are, so that she could use that when she ultimately fights him. So, and it was kind of cool to see that come back. I thought that when she fell into that mud pit, that she was going to use the mud to hide from him, but then it ended up being the flower. And then after she figured out the eating the flower thing, I was like, what was the mud pit for? And then we figure out later that she uses it to kind of trap him so that she can get him to essentially kill himself. So all that was really cool. And I was like you. I really was wondering, how the heck are they going to defeat Predator without, like, modern tools? And I was like, oh, gun. I thought she was going to shoot him in the back of the head. And I was like, no way that's going to work. It's a gun. And, like, they had been shooting him all that other time anyway, so.
She does shoot him point blank. It just doesn't kill him. It pisses him off.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, I don't remember, but anyways, the other thing that I thought was funny about the guns is that she was like pretty much owning those French guys. And I was like, oh yeah, when you use guns, you kind of lose your ability for hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, like, I mean, but it's true. Like, I don't know how to fight someone. I never really needed to. I mean, I don't know how to use a gun either, but, like, after you make weapons, do you really need to know how to, like, karate chop someone? I don't think so. Well, you've seen Indiana Jones, right? When the guy was, like, swords, and he just takes a gun out and, like,
shoots him? Right? Yeah.
Like, why even? I have gun. So I feel like it kind of makes you stupid.
Oh my god. I mean, it's kind of by like, anime logic it does.
I mean, if you think about it, like, if we had to go live out in the wild, we'd be, like, done for, because we're, like, adapted to living in basically luxury.
Oh, yeah. No,
like, I can't make a fire. So it's, like, the same concept. Like, these guys can't do, like, the I guess, like,
They can't fight in the same way. But, I mean, it is kind of based on historical, like, ideas or historical time, and historically we do know that Native Americans were destroyed by guns. Same thing for the samurai. It's the reason the age of the samurai came to an end. So guns are still absolutely a problem, but it is nice and cool to see that when she was forced to be in a hand-to-hand combat scenario, absolutely, you're right, she was able to be superior. And that brings me to one of the coolest things about this movie was the weapon that she crafted and created for herself. When she's throwing the axe, they start the movie by showing you that she can throw the axe, and axe throwing is hard, by the way. If you ever tried it, axe throwing is really hard. So the fact that she can throw, and they show that she's already skilled throwing an axe. So story-wise, she's trained, she is good, but there's still room for her to get better. When she gets the idea to tie the string to the axe so that she can keep pulling it back, she doesn't automatically, like, do it and then she's just good at it, despite being good at axe throwing. But she practices, and they show you her practicing because the point is to show you that she is going to get better doing this. And then in that scene that you're talking about where she gets to fight the Frenchman, it's a one taker. It's a oneer. It just kind of flows around her while the combat is going, and you see her throwing the axe, pulling it, and actually using the thing that she practiced in order to win. And that is part of what makes the movie so satisfying. Like, what makes this satisfying is the plants and payoffs. Like, it is such a simple idea for filmmaking, but it is proven true that it works because people feel good when they feel like their investment pays off. When they see the thing, why was she in the mud? Oh, she used the mud to trap it. Oh, she's looking at how the predator shoots its thing with its mask. She stole the mask. Why did she steal the mask? Oh, the mask in order to kill it. So all these different elements. The flower, she uses at the beginning to cool the person's blood so he doesn't bleed out, and he lives because of that. You think it's just, because she's good at medicine. No, she actually uses it to camouflage herself from the heat vision because she uses it on somebody who's hurt and the predator can't see them. So, like, all these things, like, she learns, she gets better, she grows, and people like seeing characters grow and change and struggle and overcome that struggle. And, like, when you get to the end of the movie and she lets out that loud cry after, like, having this person die, you feel her frustration, you feel her satisfaction, and you're like, yes, I want to scream with you. You did it. You were fighting for your life because that predator was really trying to end her. And more than one occasion, she almost dies in that film. That's the other thing about it. She gets into situations where she's not escaping and she's not overpowering the predator. She is actually in a position where she is going to die, and because of certain things that happen in the story, she gets saved. So it's not even like she doesn't get saved. She absolutely does get saved. She does some saving, but by the end, she saves herself. Even the dog saves her. Like, it's just great. There's just so many things in that movie that just feel good to like see in a story, and like the story is a simple one, but it just really works, and that's why I like really liked it.
She also used the same bait trick on the predator that she used for the mountain lion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
Like all this stuff, and that's the thing, these are all like plants. These are like putting together little seeds that are going to sow into something later. And so when you see it, even if you don't immediately recognize that this is something that's related to it, there's something that seems familiar about it, and therefore it feels good. And so that's one of the biggest things that I can give the movie, on top of the fact that the movie just looks great. Like you were saying, when you first started watching it, you had a good feeling. That was the same way with me. You start seeing it, like you hear the ambience that they're kind of building. You're starting to see like how they're setting it up, and even when they do the shot of the opening with the sky and everything, like all this stuff that they're doing in the lead up of the beginning of the movie, all of it just feels good. It feels right, and so you get the feeling you're about to be in a good experience, and the movie doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, it just felt very heightened. I feel like I got taken back to like a really good films like Lord of the Rings, where you're really getting the landscape. You're really getting like, it's an establishing shot, right? But it really makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you know exactly where you are, even though you have no idea where they are because they're out in the wilderness. But you really get that vibe, and just the way that it's shot. I think I remember saying, while I was watching it, I was like, I don't think I've seen a film shot this beautifully since Rogue One. Where it just looks so good, and like it's just really pretty to look at.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like I don't have many criticisms for the film, but I do have some. And I have two major criticisms. One of them is like a slight nitpick, and it's not that big a deal. But whenever you have movies like this, that are about like a group of people that speak a language that's other than English historically, it always feels a little odd when they're speaking English and then say words in their native tongue, or like speak in switching to speaking in their native tongue, because you ask yourself, wait a second, do they actually know English? Like when she starts with the French person and the French person is speaking English to her speaking English, in my mind, I'm like, they shouldn't be speaking English right now. He should be speaking, I think, Comanche. And to be fair, there is a dub of this film that is only in Comanche, I believe, where you can watch it in that whole language. But when watching the film in English and having them say certain words, like I get that the English is for us, but it sometimes can just come across as a little odd in certain situations with all these different languages that are supposed to be spoken and that are supposed to be situations where people don't understand each other.
Yeah, I agree. That did throw me a little bit, but also I understood that they needed to speak English because it's for
Mm-hmm.
an English audience. So
Right.
I get that, but I kind of wish that in that moment they, like you said, they were actually speaking the native language as opposed to English, so that we could really be in that moment where they're not speaking the same language. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, I was like, I'm glad it was in English though, so I didn't have to read
You have to read all
subtitles
the
the whole time.
subtitles.
Because even the French guys, I was like, oh, they didn't even like
They didn't translate the
translate.
French. Nope.
So like we just had to like kind of get the gist of what they're talking about, and I think they did a really great job with that
I
too,
think so
because like
too.
you could kind of just figure out
What
more
was
or
being
less what
said?
they're saying. Yeah. So yeah, like there there there's this one really gross part, but um But like I was like, oh, I really get what they're saying right now, and it's gross. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
My only other problem, I think, is the part with the bear. And that's because I feel like I don't really think that's how bears work. I don't
What do you
think
mean?
that's what bears would do. Because, like, first it, like, heard a sound from really far away, and then it was, like, hunting for the sound. I don't think bears really do that. And then, like, the dog came to save her and kind of led it away from her. And I was like, if I was bear and I was hungry, would I pick thing that's running away, or do I pick thing that's like just there and it's bigger? And it was like I pick thing that's not moving because it's easier to kill.
I mean,
So
but I don't know how bears actually work, so I can't say one way or the other what happens. I
um,
mean, bears chase things that are
yeah,
running.
this is also kind of going off of me watching this show called Alone, and they encounter bears
Okay.
frequently, and I don't think they ever had a bear incident where they saw, like, the bear saw them and they saw bear and bear was like, mama, go
Yeah.
that way. I mean, they might kind of go towards them, but they would never just go running at you and stuff like that, unless you were like attacking their children or something, or if they feel very threatened. And she was not being threatening, and that's something
Threatening.
that they really establish a lot in this movie, is if you're not threatening, then they won't come after you. So that kind of bothered me, especially when she like escaped and she was like underneath all that wood, but the bear was trying very hard to get through to it, and I was like, I don't think bear would really try this hard for this. So
The bear must have been really hungry. Or that bear just really hated her for whatever reason.
yeah,
Maybe because
it's
she
just
smelled. Because if you remember, like the wind blows and the bear catches her scent. That's when he first starts looking at her. Because the idea is like when you're hunting, you're supposed to be downwind of whatever you're hunting so that they can't smell you. Like that's a general rule for hunting, which is why the bear first notices her. So maybe the bear just really didn't like the way she smelled and just had to like get rid of that smell no matter what.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of like, well, maybe. I just didn't
I'm
feel
joking.
like this is how bear would be. That is all I'm saying, and it kind of bothered me. That's all.
Oh yeah, no, I get you. I was just
Because
messing
bear
around.
also eat berries,
Oh yeah.
and they don't need meat all the time because they
I
can.
mean, why wouldn't a bear eat berries? It's basically the same name.
Sure. um. Anyways, we can move on from this part of the conversation.
But
I just wasn't feeling it there. That's all.
that's perfectly fine. There's another thing that isn't really a criticism, but more like like a feeling of wondering how it would have turned out, because you didn't see the trailer, but when the trailer happens, the trailer kind of hides the predator. When you first watch the first half of it, it just kind of shows the Comanche people and they're hunting, they're talking about their struggles or whatever, and they're talking about how something is killing things in the woods. And in the trailer, you see her come across the bear, run from the bear, and then you see that scene where the bear gets lifted, but it cuts away a split second later when you see the bear's being lifted up by nothing. And you're just like, wait, what is that? And then you hear the sound that the predator makes, and then you're like, oh, this is a predator movie. And there's a part of me that was wondering what the movie would feel like if they hid the predator until like that moment. Like one hand, I'm like, okay, I kind of like the fact that they're like, okay, we know it's a predator movie, so we're just gonna show you the predator from the get go. But there's a part of me that wonders how the movie would have felt if there was more of a mystery to what was doing all these things, and then at that point you realize that it's a predator movie, or you realize, or that's when the predator, like when she sees the predator is when we see the predator. And I wonder how that would have felt, because it was very effective for the trailer, and I remember liking that a lot. So that was just the other thing that, like I said, it's not really a criticism or critique, it's more just kind of a what if, I wonder.
I don't know, because I wonder that too, because I actually didn't know that this was a Predator movie. I was just
Oh,
told that it was because I don't watch trailers, so
right.
people were calling it the Predator movie, not Prey. So I already
Mm.
knew that it was going to be Predator. Um, and I also don't really remember too much of the original films. I do remember sort of the one with Danny Glover in it.
Predator
I
2.
Yeah. I also did not know that was Predator 2. But anyways, I think that would have been interesting if I didn't know. And I'm kind of thinking about it. It's very likely that I could have just not known until seeing Predator. Like
Mm-hmm.
him actually not having
The cloak.
the cloak. Yeah, because I also don't remember the sound. I did not remember that Predator made that sound.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, if you're trying to be sneaky, why are you gonna be so noisy?
See, and like that gets us like to talking about the predator himself. Like the predator is a dick. Like just straight up, the predator is a dick. Like on one hand, I'm like, okay, the predator is somebody that wants to like fight and hunt the strongest beings, right? And that and there are times when the predator, like she says it too, like the predator doesn't hunt things that aren't a threat, and so that's why like the predator left her alone once she like got her leg caught in a trap and stuff. But at the same time, it's like this has always been my question about the predator thing, like the predator lore. Like they're always about hunting and like fighting the strongest creatures, but they always use their cloaking to their advantage. Like they always, and I feel like that's like cheating. It's like I can't beat you because I can't see you. But there are other times when the predator seems like it wants to make it a fair fight, where it's like actively trying to fight you in a way that is fair for a one-on-one situation. But then there are other times the predator is just like, I'm just going to murder everyone with my technology because I don't care. So sometimes the rules of how the predator works confuse me. And so that's just something that's like with predator lore in general. But uh, outside of that, I really did enjoy the moments with the predator in here. Like the predator is brutal. The predator has a lot of moments in this movie where you get to see him just murder people. But the other thing about the predator is the fact that it actually takes damage, and that's what I liked in this movie too. So not only does our main character take damage, but the predator takes damage. So you get to see from the jump that the predator is not invulnerable. Like even in the beginning, before we fully see it fight, she finds its blood on a leaf, which shows that it has been hurt before. And then they even you talk about you don't remember like the previous movies, but in the previous movie, that line that I think it's Tiba, the line that he says is, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." That's the line that Arnold Schwarzenegger said in the original Predator movie. So that was kind of like the callback. But that's the point. And throughout this movie, you see it bleed. You see it get frustrated and get hurt. It still does a lot of killing, but you see it bleed. And I like the fact that even though the Predator is a superior hunter, the Predator doesn't actively um, does not take damage because he's like Superman or whatever. It's still like
Yeah.
is something that it feels more real in that way to me.
He takes so much damage in this movie. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, he really hurt. But I actually the, the the movie that I remember the most is Predator versus Alien. And so that made me feel like, oh, I like Predator because Predator
Oh, they're
was
cool. They're friends
helping
with
the
us.
humans. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, wait, no. Well, like, first of all, this is probably a different guy. And second of all,
It's
this is
definitely
a
a
long
different
time
guy.
ago.
Hmm.
um, so, yeah.
And also because it's a long time ago, the other thing they do is they show you how the technology is a little
It's
different. This
different.
predator
Yeah.
this predator does not have the same like blasting technology that we normally see. Normally when you see those three dots appear, it shoots a blast at you that usually blows you up. But in this one it actually shot what felt like arrows.
Arrows.
Like arrows are like sharp pole like things that could track you. So that was pretty cool too because it showed that this isn't just a change in technology for us, it's a change in technology for the predator too, and it also kind of helps establish the lore of how the technology, just like our own, has improved over like the hundreds of years.
Yeah, I think we had a comment from our viewers.
Oh, the one, the predator is the alien equivalent of rich guys hunting elephants on safari. Yeah,
Yeah, I was saying, like, wasn't it that they would come to Earth because it was kind of like a playground for them to just come and, like,
that was an Alien versus Predator,
right?
but
And they would, like, build me a temple so that I could
yeah, that's
bring an
the
alien here and kill it in my temple that you will build for me.
well, the normal Predator lore is that they go around and they like they go to different planets and they hunt the strongest beings there. This one seemed almost kind of like this was a rite of passage. If you notice at the beginning of the movie, the Predator gets dropped off, like a spaceship goes and drops the Predator off, and it almost seems like this is like survive here for like a certain amount of time and you'll prove your worth as a warrior and we'll let you in, because that's the other thing. The Predator in the Predator movies have always like been about like the pride of the fight, and they give trophies or respect to those who, at least in Predator 2, they give respect to those that
Oh,
best them.
so you can kind of say that it was Predator's hunt thing. I don't know. I don't remember what they call it, but like she would say like
Yeah, whatever her
right,
right was.
her rite of passage for hunting something. It's the same thing for him, and he's probably some
Yes.
like teenage predator, and this is like his first. Oh man, his mom must be worried sick.
His mom ain't gonna have him back. Um, so one last thing before we get ready to get out of here, but there is a part in the ending credits. The ending credits, if you watch them, it's kind of like a kind of abstract drawing that goes through the events of the movie all the way up until the end. But when you get to the end of that abstract drawing, something different happens that didn't happen in the live action segment of the movie, and that's the drawing pans over and then you see the alien spacecraft coming towards the Comanche people, and then it cuts to black and then goes to the regular credits. So it made me wonder if they were planning, depending on how this movie does, if they were going to try to do a sequel within this same timeline, or if that was just kind of like the standard horror movie ending where you end on some type of thriller type moment.
Yeah, it's probably his mom coming to pick him up, and oof, I do not want to see that one.
find the dead body.
My son. Uh,
So,
but I was gonna say, well, what if Predator's a female? But I mean, he
could
got
be.
owned though. He got owned, so I would say no.
Oh wow,
Uh,
disrespectful. Disrespectful.
my last thing that I wanted to say was just that I thought it was really cool how it was Predator had an encounter with like a coyote or something like that, and after he like kills it, he like debones it the way like someone would debone a fish, and I was like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
I,
something
I
that they.
enjoyed that.
Yeah, in the other movies, he would do that to people, like literally take your spine out and then have your head, and so that was kind of cool. And speaking of that, like those scenes, I like those scenes when they showed kind of like the cycle of life, where you see like the ant that gets killed by the mouse, then the mouse that gets killed by the snake, then the snake that gets killed by the predator, and just showing that there's a hierarchy on this food chain, and just establishing the hunt. So I like it. The theme of the movie is hunting, and it does it very well, for sure.
Yeah,
But
overall they did a really good job with it.
yeah, the surprise hit for what we were gonna like talk about. Neither one of us expected it, and yeah, the movie isn't perfect, but the movie for us at least is pretty dang good. Like it might go up there in my by the end of the year. It might be in my top 5 like favorite films of the year. But we'll see what else we see before this year's out. Maybe that's what we could do a video about that. If you guys would be interested, let us know if you want to see like what our
Oh yeah,
like,
our top picks.
10 yeah for the movies of the year are, and we'll put that together for you guys. But if you guys want to hear us talk a little bit more, that's all the time we have for our YouTube segment. But you can check us out if you want to talk with us more on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/C3 Films. It'd be great to see you guys over there. But what did you guys think about Prey? The new Predator movie. Did you like it? Did you want to see the Comanche language version of the film? Would you prefer the English language version? Did you want to just see more of Predator movies kind of taking place in this kind of time period or other time periods? Maybe like even in feudal Japan. Whatever you thought about the movie, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we'll see you all next time.